Good evening, everybody at Clark County. As you can see, I am at Athens Church. Decided to take the bike out for a ride. We're going to be answering some various questions on this video, and I'm actually going to be picking different locations to answer those questions to kind of make this a little more fun and get out and get a little bit of fresh air with this pandemic going on. So the first question that I've been asked quite a bit is, why am I running as a Republican? Well, I chose Athens Church because this answer is very fitting to what my faith as a Christian is and what God wants us to be. God wants us to be true to ourselves, and we also want us to be true to Him and following His faith and following His word. And that is exactly what I am doing. I've been on the Republican Party member for over 20 years. I know there's people out there that have told me that I should run on the Democratic ticket, and that could pretty much guarantee my win as the new sheriff of Clark County. And that's not how I want to win. I want to win because the voters feel that I am confident enough and capable and knowledgeable and experienced to be their new sheriff of Clark County. So that's why I'm not changing. I'm not changing because I feel that I'm not being true to myself. And also the race for the sheriff, the election, sheriff's election should not be about a political party. It should only be about who you feel as the citizens of this great county is qualified and can do a great job for not only for the sheriff's office, but the citizens of Athens Clark County as well. So that is why I'm running on the Republican ticket. I have to be true to myself, and I wouldn't sleep good at night knowing that I wasn't. So I hope that answers that question, and I'll be back in a few minutes at our next location to answer our next question. See ya. Okay, everybody, welcome back. As you see, I am and behind the Congregational Children of Israel. This synagogue is where I actually performed security functions for over 6 years. And when I decided to leave the sheriff's office and run for the office of the sheriff, one of the hardest decisions I had to make was to leave this great group of people in the congregation and put it in the hands of some pretty good friends of mine from the sheriff's office. But as you can see, there's no one here. COVID ID has closed our churches and our synagogues and our mosques until hopefully the immediate future we can all congregate again as one in our churches. Well, my second question is actually a two-part question, and that question is, what is the difference between the sheriff's office and the police department, and why isn't the sheriff's office a full-service agency? That has been a very, very good question, and I should have actually explained that at the beginning when I started doing my videos. I guess you don't really understand just how many people don't know the differences between the sheriff's office and the police department and what our true functions are. Here in Clark County, the sheriff's office is a true constitutional agency. The office of the sheriff in general, worldwide, well, let me refer a phrase, nationwide, particularly here in Georgia, we are bound by the laws of our state constitutions, and bound by the laws of our federal constitutions as well. So our jurisdiction is a little bit more broader than the police department. The police department is a municipality. Like the Athens Clark County Police Department, their jurisdiction is strictly within the confines of Athens Clark County, whereas the sheriff's office, our jurisdiction is actually statewide, and in some cases nationwide if we have to go pick up an offender from another state, depending upon the location of that state and what those individuals are being charged with. But the biggest thing with the police department is they answer your calls for service. When you call 911 or call the non-emergency number and request an assistance for a call, that is who's going to come, is the police department. They're the ones that's going to answer your call, make a decision based upon their experience and training, and hopefully no one comes to jail in the process. But that's pretty much what they do, is that they answer the calls for service The sheriff's office, like I said, we are a constitutional position. Our function as a sheriff's office is to house all of the offenders in our jail. We're responsible for the security and safety of the jail. Our additional safety and security responsibility is the courthouse, to make sure we man the security checkpoints at both entrances, and we also provide court security for each of the courts within the courthouse as well. And we also have a field division, or a road division, as some of us call it, and that function is to take care of all of the paper that comes from the courts. It is filed through the court system and signed by a judge. That could be an arrest warrant, whether it be criminal arrest warrant, or it could be a civil arrest warrant. A civil arrest warrant is if you got taken to civil court and you had a disposition that you had to pay, or you had to do something to compensate the alleged victim in the case, and you failed to do that, the judge can actually sign a civil arrest warrant, and that holds the same weight as a criminal arrest warrant. Our job is to go unfortunately apprehend the offender and bring them to the jail, and then at a later date take them to the courts so they can answer to the judge's questions as to why. Our job is to serve all the civil papers, whether it be an eviction, whether it be a divorce, whether it be a lawsuit, child support, whatever the case, anything that is civil in nature, our job is to serve those papers. Once again, those also signed by judges. That's the only things. If it's not signed by a judge, we do not apprehend, or we do not serve those papers. So that's the biggest things between the sheriff's office and the police department. Why are we not full service? Well, I did a little bit of investigating, and I actually found there is a letter out, and I'm actually going to read it from the source that I got it from. This is actually a letter to the CALEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and it pretty much explains what the functions are between the Athens-Clarke County Police Department and the Clarke County Sheriff's Office, and is actually a charter. Which we all learn something new every day. I didn't, I had an idea, but now I see it in writing, and so it's got to be true. The Charter of Athens-Clarke County Unified Government has vested the Athens-Clarke County Police Department with the authority to provide the primary law enforcement agencies for Athens-Clarke County, which means when you call, like I said before, you call 911 or you call the non-emergency dispatch number, the Athens-Clarke County Police Department is going to come. The Clarke County Sheriff's Office assumes a secondary law enforcement role, providing assistance to the police department as requested or as circumstances require. Now, do we answer calls for service? Absolutely. I've actually, when I was on the road as a warrant deputy, I have actually answered calls for service myself. I've responded to accidents. We've responded to backup calls for the police department. We've backed up the police department for shots fired calls. We even back up the University of Georgia police department as well. So we try to be well versed within the agencies. We partner with the different agencies to assist them when they absolutely need us. The sheriff's office, we actually monitor all of the radio traffic that comes through when you are in a marked patrol unit out on patrol, serving warrants or serving civil papers. So if in the event that assistance is needed, we know where it's at, we know where to go. There are also time to time where the police department is backlogged in calls. They're also shorthanded as well, and the sheriff's office is actually asked to step in and answer a couple of calls. I have done that also in the past. So that's pretty much why we're not full service. But the main responsibility is exactly what I said. This is actually comes from the document to CALEA. Our responsibilities at the Clarke County Sheriff's Office is the courthouse and courtroom security, service of criminal warrants and other warrants requested by the courts, service of legal process, prisoner transports, that's either they're at the local level taking them to prison itself, or bringing them back from prison if they have a court date, or whatever the case may be. It could even be another, going out to another county and picking up a prisoner and bringing them to our jail. And then the Clark County Jail management, including booking, intake, classification, and any general custody. Assistance to the Clark County Police Department as requested. General law traffic enforcement does not include DUI, sobriety, and radar speed detections, and those are critical because we're not actually trained to do DUI stops or DUI sobriety checkpoints or any speed enforcement at all as well. And the police department, they're the primary law enforcement agency, including juvenile operations, special operations, patrol unusual occurrences, responding to and managing civil disturbances, liaison with civil defense authorities, Homeland Security, providing terrorism awareness information within Athens, Clark County. So I'm not going to read the whole page as far as the functions of the police department, so I'm sure you get the gist of the different duties that each of the two agencies have. Now, does that say that it's not one of my goals or one of my solutions in the future? No. One of my goals that I have for the field division, particularly the road, is right now their warrant service goes from 8 o'clock in the morning until midnight. After midnight, you do not see any sheriff patrol cars on the street whatsoever, even handling warrants. It's a general function of the police department to handle them after midnight, and then the jail staff will be responsible for serving said warrants that the police department brings in. My goal with that is going to be changing those hours. I feel that the warrant division needs to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Unfortunately, the people out there know what our hours are. So they leave at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning because they know we're coming to work, and they come back home or come back in the neighborhoods after midnight because they know we've already gone home for the day. So my goal is going to be to run that division 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also, that's only going to be for the warrant section. The civil section will still continue to run from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock and stop at 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week as well. But I want the warrant service out there even more. My goal also is to increase the number of people in the patrol section or the patrol division, as most people know about it at the police department. And my goal within there, and my solution with that is, we're going to get more people trained to answer calls. We're going to send them to various training schools with Athens Clark County Police Department, partner up with them and get our deputies trained on accident investigations. Most of the accidents that I have responded to myself as a warrant deputy, a simple fender bender rear end case, they're pretty self-explanatory. The person that unfortunately rear-ended the person, they were following too close or going too fast for conditions. Any law enforcement officer can pretty much handle that investigation, and I want to train our deputies to handle calls such as that, so that if we roll up on an accident, we can go ahead and take care of ourselves rather than have to sit there, block traffic, and wait for a police officer to arrive to handle the call. We'll handle ourselves. Also I want to send people to training for domestic violence cases. Some of our officers already right now are going through crisis intervention training, or CID, to help de-escalate situations when they arise. I don't see any reason why the police department and the sheriff's office cannot partner together. Both agencies are short. Partner together and get these calls answered in a timely fashion. I know one of the goals of the sheriff office, and has been for a very, very long time, and it is actually one of my goals as well, is to get these warrants served in a timely fashion, especially these violent warrants, these serious felony warrants. These guys need to be apprehended and taken to the jail so they can answer the charges for which they're being accused of, and give the victims a little bit of peace of mind knowing that their alleged offender or attacker, or whatever the word you want to use, can get a little bit of sleep at night knowing that they're going to be safe. This is more so with the stalking, the rapes, the aggravated assaults, the batteries, or any of the family violence related charges as well. We need to get these warrants served in a timely fashion. So My goal is not only, that's one of the reasons why I want to go 24 hours with the warrant service, and I also want to increase the personnel in the warrant service too, so that we can get out there and get these warrants served in a timely fashion. So that is the difference between the two agencies. I'm going to go my next location. I was going to go to go somewhere else, but today's being Sunday and it's the weekend after Easter, and I just feel compelled and called by our Lord to do this videos at various churches within our community. So I'll be back in a few minutes at our next location. Okay, everybody, we are now at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Athens. This location is significant because when the Congregational Children of Israel was going through their remodeling of their congregation, of their synagogue, their worship area, this place hosted all of the religious services that CCI had for their congregation. So I also provided security here while their synagogue was under construction. So the last question is actually a two-part. So I'm going to answer one part of the question here, and then we'll go over to our last and final location and answer the second part of the questions and wrap everything up. So I've heard this question asked myself many times. I've also asked one of my opponents as well on the other side. It says, what are the two things you are going to do in your first year in office? And the answer that I had heard from one of my opponents is, I don't want to be held to a timeline. I have ideas, but I don't want to be held to a timeline to accomplish these things. In my opinion, wrong answer. The members of the sheriff's office wants answers. The community wants answers. If we're going to elect you into an office, what are you going to do for us? Well, Clark County residents, this is what I'm going to do the first thing I get in there. The very first thing I'm going to get in there and take care of is the overtime pay for all of our members. At present, all of our sworn officers in all three sections of the agency are paid their overtime one time a month or every other pay period. And these guys work a lot of hours for the agency, actually for you as a community. And to be only paid once a month, in my opinion, is unacceptable. There is a section in the courts, and sometimes even the road section, that if you work overtime, they time adjust you, meaning that you either come in late or you leave early from one of your scheduled shifts within the same overtime pay period. And I don't think that's right. Another thing that happens is if a person takes vacation during that month time, they actually receive straight time instead of time and a half for their overtime. And I'll take a reason. This is the reason why I want to do what I do. This is the change I want to make is just like our civilians. Our civilians are paid overtime every 2 weeks. Corporate America, overtime is paid every 2 weeks. So our law enforcement officers and our first responders of Clark County should be no different. I'm unaware of how the police officers for the Athens Clark County Police Department are paid for their overtime. I do know they also work a lot of overtime as well. But I know with the sheriff's office, they're paid once a month, and I want to change that to every 2 weeks. And this is one of the reasons why. One, you're going to get a better committed officer, knowing they're going to help us out while we're trying to get recruitment up. Help us out at the jail, help us out on the road, help us out in courts, so that we can maintain staffing, the minimum staffing that we need to safely operate our three sections, and they get paid their money right away. The second thing is if they take a vacation And I'll use an example. The very first pay period, they don't work any overtime at all, which right now it's almost unheard of because these guys are on mandatory overtime as it is. But let's just say to humor us, the first 2 weeks of the pay period, the deputy does not work any overtime at all, but takes 1 day vacation. Okay, that is 12.0 hours of vacation that they take. Now the second pay period, they work 12.25 hours of overtime. Now, because it's in the same overtime pay period, even though it is a different pay period, in the same overtime pay period, that deputy is only going to get paid 0.25 hours of overtime, because those 12 hours that he or she took 2 weeks prior is going to be reduced from overtime straight pay, overtime premium or time and a half to overtime straight pay, which means they're going to make the exact hourly rate that they're working if they're working a regular shift. That shouldn't be. These guys should get paid for the hours that they work and for the time that they give to us. Some of the things I found very interesting with all of this is the amount of money that is being spent on overtime. I'm going to go over the audit of 2018 that the Organizational Analyst Office has had worked out. In 2018, if you're not familiar, in 2018, the Clark County Sheriff's Office went and started, was advised of an audit, and in the spring of 2018, that audit began, and it started off with a series of questions for all of the members of the Sheriff's Office, and then they did their investigations from there. Well, this is actually a part of their findings of the audit, and it's appalling on how much over budget that we are just in overtime alone. Okay, now this is over the last 5 years, from fiscal year 14 to fiscal year 2018. At fiscal year 2018, they budgeted $359,861 for overtime, and that is divided amongst the 3 different divisions. Obviously, the jail being the bulk of it. In 2015 and the rest of the time through, to include fiscal year 2019, which I'll get into that in a second, they increased their budget to $362,824. Okay, $273,024 of that is for the jail. Now, actual numbers that they had spent in fiscal year 2014, they spent $878,939, from $360,000 to $880,000 in overtime in overtime monies paid out. In fiscal year 2015, they spent $1,057,350. In fiscal year 2016, $1,211,331. In fiscal year 2017, $1,469,060, and in fiscal year 2018, $1,299,880. This is your taxpayer money getting spent on overtime when we have a serious staffing issue. Okay, and that's actually going to be my second part of this 2-part question once we get there. So basically the totals is, for a 5-year period from fiscal year 2014 to fiscal year 2018, the Clark County Sheriff's Office command staff, to include your sheriff, budgeted for $1,811,157 for overtime. Actual expenditures, $5,916,560 that the Sheriff's Office spent over the course of 5 years to staff all of their critical posts within the jail primarily, the road, and the courthouse. But most of that money went towards the jail. As a matter of fact, $5 million of that went to staffing overtime or paying overtime for the jail. Now, for you number crunching people, I actually have to cheat because I wasn't really all that great in math, but I'm learning very quickly because my wife is a great mathematician. 69% over what was originally budgeted. Now, I didn't calculate that. That actually came from the audit. I'm reading it right here. So I actually took a step further. I went in and requested financial documents from the Finance Department of Athens, Clarke County Unified Government, and I wanted to see what was going on for fiscal year 19. I tried to get fiscal year 2020, but the fiscal year is not quite over yet, so trust me, good citizens of Clarke County, I will be getting those numbers as well. You add in an additional $362,824. That brings the new total over a 6-year period to $2,173,981. That was budgeted for 6 years. They spent so far, now like I said, I have not seen what 2020 numbers look like, but in fiscal year 2019, they spent $1,601,000 and $1,601,125, a 23% increase from the previous 5 years, putting that grand total at $7,517,685 of your hard-earned tax money that you entrusted the sheriff to spend wisely, strictly on overtime alone. So why are we having a staffing issue? You would think that would be a no-brainer to increase our staffing. So one of the things that I had researched on some of the sheriff's previous videos and some of the documents he even put out there, and he wants to be a good steward of your funds, a good steward of the taxpayer money. So my question to you, Sheriff, is how can you say that you're a good steward of county taxpayers' money when you are 69% over budget in overtime alone? That's a very good question. That's a question to myself as a taxpayer of this county, not only a candidate for sheriff of Clarke County, but a taxpayer. I would want to know the answer to that question. So I started digging a little bit more, particularly about the audit, and this is pretty much a little bit off the topic of the overtime. The answer to my next question, you'll see, will actually tie in to the overtime, and these numbers will come down when my plan works properly. When we get recruitment going and get more staff on, the overtime will come down. That money will come down and save the taxpayers money over time. But I learned that the 2018 audit isn't over. I learned that by mistake. I found out, I had heard through the grapevine, and you all know what rumors are, it's the rumors spread rampant at times. But doing some little bit of investigating, I found that the medical department was also added to the 2018 audit. And I had just recently learned that the audit it was not completed. The goal for the audit to completion was April 2019. A year ago, this audit was supposed to have been finished. So what's taking so long? Is there some unanswered questions that need to be answered, or is the sheriff and his command hiding something? Well, I'm looking at the work in progress. This is the audit status report of April 16th, 2020 from the Office of Operational Analysis, and there are 4 departments right now that are being audited by this department. The top one obviously is the Clarke County Sheriff's Office Inmate Medical Services Contract, and their purpose of the audit, which I had a feeling was coming, and it ties into the overtime, analyzing medical services expenditures. Where's the money going? Okay, and there are 5 different areas that operational analysis looks at. One of them is pre-planning audit, for which right now the sheriff's office is 100% complete, but that's not for the sheriff's office. That's for operational analysis department. Their job is to identify the benchmarks, conduct literature reviews, research best practices, develops a pre-audit survey, requests documents related to the client audit, and also conducts pre-conference meeting with the audit client department or the department director meaning the sheriff, discuss the audit process and the timing of the fieldwork, and answer any questions that may come up based upon the survey that had hit. As of right now, as of April 16th, this information is based upon April 16th, they're 100% done with the pre-planning audit. The next stage is the discovery stage. They are 90% complete with that. That is your interviews, information validation, observations, and surveys. At this stage is critical to the preparation of a complete and meaningful audit, which consumes the majority of the time involved. Now, according to operational analysis, they're 90% complete. Now, I could probably go a step further and request additional documents on this and probably have my questions answered. Is why is it not 100% complete? And my guess would probably be the interview stages, the validation of the information, the observation of the survey. They're probably not letting them in so they can interview the people like they did us as the deputies and the civilians of the sheriff's office. They sat us down and interviewed us as well. So I can only speculate. I don't know for sure, but I will find out those answers and I will get back them to you. And after that is analysis, which is 80% complete. That is assigning meaning or value to the information, determine what it reveals related to the scope of the audit, define systems, processes, and practices in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. As of right now, that's only 80% complete because they cannot finish the discovery stage. Okay? The next two are conclusions, is identifies and describes constraints and opportunities regarding developments and implementation of needed improvements, and recommendations is it suggests actions that can be taken into consideration of the constraints and opportunities. Both of those sections are at 0% complete. This was supposed to be done a year ago. What has taken so long? Okay, I understand right now we're in the COVID-19 pandemic, but it wasn't that way a year ago. 3 other departments, Public Utilities Department, their scheduled planning of completion was February 2019. Their report is finalized. They are finished. Central Services Department, Fleet Management, their target was April 2020. They are finalizing their final draft report as we speak. Animal Services Department or Animal Control, their target was next month for completion. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, they have been unable to complete that audit, which I get that one. I can accept that answer because we have a pandemic going on and most of our departments are right now closed. So I give you that one. Sheriff's Office, I can't give you that one. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've learned looking at the results of the audit was one comment that was made by the Office of Operational Analysis, which could very well explain why I'm running for sheriff and why my opponent, John Q. Williams, is also running for sheriff. Okay, because of the lack of leadership within this organization for the sheriff. Once again, this is coming from their document. Despite welcoming the audit and expressing commitment towards the process and increased transparency, Sheriff Edwards informed us that he would not be serving as the primary audit contact for the SO. Why, Sheriff? It's your department. It's your agency. You are the top person. You are the CEO, as you say, of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. Why couldn't you answer the questions yourself? Oh, I know why. Because in July of 2018, you were in New Orleans with the National Sheriff's Association. That's during the audit time. In December of 2018, you were in Nigeria with the International Dare program. In 2019, July, you were back in Louisville, Kentucky, back with the National Sheriff's Association. In May of 2019, you took a group of kids from the Dare program. Now, don't take me literally on this one. I get it. The kids worked really hard, and it was a trip of a lifetime. So parents of Dare, please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. But the sheriff took a group of kids along with deputies that we could have used in the jail to assist in overtime and giving some of our other members a break, took the entire group to to New York City. Okay, like I said, I get it. You know, my daughter went to Washington, D.C. on a school trip. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Most people in Athens don't even leave Athens. So, you know, I'm not dogging the kids out whatsoever. Kudos to the kids. I'm glad it was. I hope y'all had a great time, wonderful experience. But the house is on fire, and the key people that went should have been here helping us out. I would have maybe solicited some parents and say, hey, you guys want to go chaperone with us? Another opportunity for you guys as well. But that's just me. And then to wrap it all up, in summer of 2019, he was with the FBI LEDA getting sworn in as the second vice president of the organization. So to me, you're everywhere else but where you need to be. And I remember a comment you made, Sheriff, when I was a sergeant at the jail. You said it in my briefing that you don't need to be there to show these guys that you care about them. I bit different with you, Sheriff. They needed to see you. They want to see you. They want to know that you absolutely care for them and care about them and care about their well-being. The overtime and the amount of overtime that these guys are made to work is unacceptable, and we are going to fix that come January 1st, 2021, when I take office as your new sheriff. Okay, so that, I hope I answered all the questions answered that question to the best I possibly can. I will answer the second part of that question when I get to my last and final location. Okay, everybody, as you saw, I am at Green Acres Baptist Church, which is at the entrance of the Green Acres housing community, and actually where I reside as well. This place has significant meaning in my life. This was one of the first churches that we attended when we moved to Athens. My daughter and I, in this very church, accepted Christ as our Lord and Savior and was baptized in this very church. I haven't been a member here for several years now. I now attend Athens Church, where we started our video at the beginning when we started this. But I thought it was quite fitting that I end the video at this location. It was actually pretty difficult finding a good spot to film this. So if it doesn't look all clear or shadowed or bright stuff, I do apologize. I am outside. Unfortunately, because of COVID, as you very well know, we cannot go inside. So the second part of the last question is, what two things do I plan to do in my first year in office? We've already went over the overtime pay and the amount of money that's being spent in overtime. And now the second part, which will tie into the first part of the question, is what am I going to do? Recruit. Recruit, recruit, recruit. We've got to get these numbers up. So the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to be creating a permanent recruitment team. That's one thing in the 9 years that I've been with the Sheriff's Office we have not had. I've actually been part of a recruitment team. At one point I did all the job fairs for the veterans, veteran job fairs within Athens and some of the surrounding areas. And before I left the Sheriff's Office to run, I was once again part of the recruitment team for a second time, going to various job fairs out there. And when we have a recruitment team, the numbers speak for itself. We actually do very well. We have members come aboard our team, and we're able to slow or reduce dramatically the amount of overtime that is being spent. When before I went back into the recruitment team, the shift I was responsible for, both shifts I was responsible for, those shifts were working on the average of 5 to 7 days per month. Now, with our schedule that we have, these guys only get 14 days off a month. Okay, so out of those 14 days off a month, working half of that was in overtime at the jail on a mandatory basis. We actually got it down to about 3 days. We work on a calendar system for some of the people that didn't know how we actually scheduled the overtime. I broke up my shift, and actually all the other shifts, all 4 other shifts, broke our shift down into teams, and the more teams that we was able to create, the less amount of overtime that we was able to schedule. And at one point we were almost down to 2 teams, which means these guys were working almost every other day. Thank God when we had the recruitment team come in, we started getting some more people into place, and we was actually got it up to 4 teams, and we're just almost ready to create a 5th team, because we're increasing staffing, we're increasing the numbers on our shifts, so we was able to pretty much keep about 4 people on each team, resulting in 3 days a month in overtime. And then when I left and decided to run for sheriff, I'm finding out now that those teams are back up to 4 and 5 respectively, which means they're back up working 4, 5, sometimes 6 days a week in overtime. Those are the days that they were mandated to work. Now, the audit specified that they didn't really classify it as mandatory, because if a person found someone else to work for them, that was fine. We actually accepted that. We told the members of our shifts that if you can find someone to work for you, this is your scheduled day to work. If you find someone to work for you, that is okay. You can go home and enjoy your family. But if you did not find anybody to work for you, you are required to work that shift. So, to a degree, it was mandatory on schedule. However, if they were able to find someone, then we didn't hold them to it as far as the scheduling goes. The recruitment team, I want to start off with 3 recruiters. 3 people dedicated, that dedicated and believe in the system, not so much the system, but the agency, and wants to make the agency thrive. And so I want to start off with 3 people. I'm planning on attaching those people to the training department at the beginning, because the training department, there are already supervisors in place to monitor what's going on, and also all of our new officers that come aboard go through our jail training officer program with the training department also. So I think at the beginning the 2 should go very well hand in hand. As we increase staffing and allocate more positions, I would like to see our recruitment department increase so that we can keep our pipeline full. Are we going to be at 100% staffing? God only knows. But one thing that I couldn't see and I got really frustrated with the sheriff's office is every time we got close to being staffed, even if at 90-95% staffing, they would stop recruitment or slow recruitment. And I'm like, you can't, because you don't know who's going to make it through training. You don't know who's going to get a better opportunity. You don't know who's up for next for retirement, promotions, transfers. The sheriff's office doesn't stop operating just because we're full staff operations. Things do happen. So recruitment's not going to stop. It's going to be a dedicated team. It's going to be a permanent team. And as we grow staff-wise, the recruitment department will be increasing as well. One of the things that I'm going to talk about is the number allocation that we're required to have in order to safely fill every single post in all 3 divisions. And this is including our supervision, and this is also including our civilians. We're supposed to have a total number of 194 members. Okay. Now, I went through the audit, as I've previously discussed in the other questions and other locations I was at, and I had the numbers was appalling what I was finding. The audit actually went back the same 5 years I discussed before on the budgets, and in fiscal year 2014. This is fiscal year 2014 through 2018. The total authorized positions was 183. In 2015, it increased to 191, and then 2016 to present date, it got increased to 174. Okay. Now, in fiscal year 2014, we peaked out at 164 staff members, and in 2015, we peaked out at 162 staff members. As you see already, we're already, high 20s, low 30s below staffing. What really got me going was in 2016, we peaked out with 173 staff members. However, we ended the fiscal year with 166 staff members. It's quite a significant difference. In fiscal year 2017, we peaked out with 174 staff members. We ended with 163 staff members. In fiscal year 2018, we peaked out with 175, and we ended with 173. That was actually probably one of our better years we had. That's when we actually had active recruitment going. We had people out there actively promoting our agency and bringing people aboard. And as you can see by the numbers, or hear by the numbers, it made a significant difference. There's only a 2-member difference. So on the average, we've been 30 people short on average for the last 5 years. And the appalling part is when I look at the projections, they're only projecting 161 people for both fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020. As an administrator, why would you project less numbers than you're allocated? Why don't you project 194 people and work diligently in filling these empty spots instead of actually projecting 10 to 15 members less than what we normally produce? I don't know what the actual numbers are that were brought in during those 2 time frames. I will be getting those answers and getting them back to you, hopefully in the immediate future. Now, in the audit, even the auditors realized that 194 total people was not enough. They actually, in their recommendations, they actually requested that we recommended that we had 218 people in our midst, in our staffing, basically 24 additional people, 13 member increase for the jail section, and 11 members more in our field division. That encompasses both the courts and our road division. Now, these increases do not count for supervision. Obviously, like for example, the recruitment department, as the department grows, I would like to bring it separate from the training department, which means I'd have to promote supervisors to run and supervise that section. I'm also, when I go 24 hours on the road, in the warrants and in civil section, and hopefully create a patrol division that go out and answer calls, we're going to need supervisors for them as well. Now, unfortunately, staffing like that does come with commission approval, but I believe that myself and my team that I put into place, and the members of the agency all collectively together build the staffing up, then I don't think we'll have an issue increasing our staffing numbers if we can show them that we're actually filling the empty spots that we're losing now. One of the things that really interested me was Sheriff Edwards had an interview with the Red and Black, and one of the quotes one of the things that he had said, and I'm going to read it right from the article, is the recruitment and retention rate at the sheriff's office has been a constant problem. Well, if you know that, Sheriff, then why wasn't it taken care of? If you knew that there was an issue, why didn't we keep recruitment going? Why did I have to leave and run for sheriff myself so that we could possibly get this thing done? You should have been here, and you should have had it taken care of, or you should have had your command staff get it taken care of. Okay, none of this should have stopped. Another thing that happens also with when staffing is low and overtime is used, obviously morale is a huge issue, but burnout also happens. And another thing that I kind of got curious on, and I I did a little more research onto it, and that was the inmate to officer altercations over the course of the last 5 years, or from fiscal year 2016 through fiscal year 2020. In 2016, we had 21 officers get an altercation with an inmate. Now, you're probably asking, what was the altercations about? I don't know those answers. I can very well find those answers out and get back with you guys on that. But as of right now, I just have the numbers. I don't really have a whole lot of answers. In 2017, we had 26 inmate and officer altercations. 2018, we had 21. And this is what really threw me through a loop is in fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020, they projected that we're going to have 20 inmate versus officer altercations. I understand that we are in law enforcement. I understand we are first responders. I understand that we are responsible for the jail and things do happen, but to me, that's an awful high number to project. Even though they run with the numbers in the past with the previous years, why aren't we finding out ways to lower those numbers instead of projecting the same type of numbers? So over the course of the 5 years, to include the projections, there was over 100 inmate and officer altercations, actual numbers, and the last 2 years in projections. To me, that's way too much. One is way too much. We gotta find a way to curb that and lower those things. And one way to do that is to recruit and get our staffing numbers up. I've heard people in the past, to include the sheriff, saying, "Well, this is a nationwide issue. All agencies nationwide are having issues with staffing." You know, you're probably right, but I don't care really what nationwide numbers say. All I know is Clark County Sheriff's Office is short. Clark County Sheriff's Office has been short ever since you've been in office. You had an audit in 2005 that said the exact same thing, and 13 years later, the issues are the same, and there's been no resolution to those issues. It should have been taken care of. Well, it's now time. We're going to turn we're going to turn ideas into actions, and we're going to get these issues fixed, and we're going to get these issues fixed quickly. There's with all of this, there's 3 things of safety that is paramount with staffing, with increased staffing and getting the numbers that we're supposed to have. And that's officer safety, in turn results in inmate safety, in turn results in community safety. Because if our warrants are not being served because our guys are working in the jail, our community is at risk. If our jail staff our posts are not being filled, there goes our inmate safety, because no one's watching them and taking care of them like we're supposed to be. And obviously, with low staffing numbers, results in officer safety also. So safety is paramount in all 3 of those sections, and I will not take that lightly when I take office. Staffing needs to be increased. I will go out of my way to make sure staffing is increased, and be there with the deputies through all of this. One of the things in the 3 different areas of our organization, we have 194 total staff members, and over 100 of those people work in the jail. So if more than 80% of your staff works in one location, which is the highest liability of the organization, why aren't you there supporting them? Well, I also pulled up his goals. In 2015, his goal was, and this is Sheriff Edwards, who we're talking about, in 2015, his goals was to spend at least 2 hours each week at the jail in order to be a more visible sheriff for the jail. Really? That's a goal? It shouldn't be a goal, Sheriff. It should have been a part of your everyday activities, or day by day or week by week or whatever. You should be there anyway. In 2016, spend at least 40% of my time out at the new jail to ensure the new jail is running smoothly. Once again, you should already be there in the first place. It shouldn't be a new goal. Not to mention his number 1 goal was to seek re-election as sheriff. Well, in 2020, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. January 1st, 2021, there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and God willing, it's going to be myself. In 2017, spend at least 25% of my time at the jail to walk around, hear concerns, and be more visible. Well, hearing concerns and listening to concerns are two totally different things. You listen to them, you listen to us, you've even listened to me, well, heard me, but you never listened. And because you didn't listen to anybody is the reason why I left, and the reason why I am now running for sheriff. All you had to do was just listen to the people that you lead, and I would still be at the sheriff's office today. In 2018, spend at least 20% of my time at the jail to walk around, hear concerns, and be more visible. Oh wow, that's the exact same goal you had in 2017. Still, once again, no change. Okay, and in 2018 really got me. I wanted to laugh really hard. In your number one goal for 2019 was to spend 25% of my time getting to know all the team members and pull what some of their concerns and needs were. Going through your action steps, going through my calendar to block out time, realizing the importance of our team members. You've been in office for nearly 20 years, Mr. Edwards. You shouldn't have to block out time. Your time as sheriff is not that busy to put your team that you hired, that you swore in, on a back burner. Your team and your people should have come first, and when I'm elected as the new sheriff, they will be my top priority. Your resources needed was time, consistency, and commitment. There shouldn't be. You should be committed and should have been committed to your team from day one. Time frame, immediately, obviously, okay? And then the outcome of a more visible sheriff that the CCSO can see and know that he is concerned about them as a team member. Once again, that should have been going on since in the 9 years that I've been there. I rarely saw you. I can imagine how long it's been before I got there in 2009. Well, correction, in 2010. Okay, it should be a given. You're the CEO. I'm soon going to be the CEO of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. My team is going to be my number one and my only priority. We're going to get those numbers up. We're going to get the overtime numbers down. We're going to show this community that true leadership is needed, and we're going to turn our ideas into action. I don't know what else to say. All I know is we're going to be doing some more videos over the next few months. We're going to go over my 4 pillars of action. The recruitment part was actually part of the safety and security pillar. We're going to go more in depth to that as the days come. On Monday, I'm going to be doing a panel with the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement. It's going to be myself, John Q. Williams, and Debbie Gonzalez. We're going to be talking about the criminal justice reform and answer various questions from there. I'm excited. At the same time, I'm kind of worried because being on the only Republican there, I'm hoping it doesn't turn into a shoot fest towards myself. But I don't back down from a challenge, so we'll be there answering everybody's questions to the very best of my ability. Guys, we're still in the primaries, so get out there. If you haven't registered to vote, get out there and get your absentee ballots. If you need an absentee ballot application, let me know. I'll be more than happy to print some out for you, bring it by your house. I'll throw it in your mailbox or attach it to your door, and so we can get those things done. Every vote counts. We can't make change unless you get out there and you get out there and you vote. So until the next video comes out, or I'll probably go Facebook Live here shortly, you all have a great Sunday. Stay safe, stay inside. If you're going to come outside, don't do what I just did, not wear my mask, but I'm not myself, so that's why I don't have my mask on. Make sure you're protected. God bless everybody. Love you all. Have a good one.